Well, what do you know? Talking here on the Kaufman Corner podcast after a win. That doesn't happen often. With you as always, David Lesky, Soren Petro. We're talking about the Kansas City Royals. Buddy Bell once said it can always get worse. How? How? I guess after tonight's win, they could have lost tonight, I would say. But we'll talk about how it could possibly get worse, how the Royals justify keeping Alex Zumwalt the way the batting has gone until tonight. Where did they go wrong? An update on that. We've done that a couple of times. Lineup shakeup, Garcia third, Jensen in the leadoff. Do we like that moving forward, even when everybody's healthy? How to fix the bullpen? Can the Royals afford to trade multiple starting pitchers? There's always a market for starting pitchers. Can they afford to trade them and think about 27 as being a contending year? Should they even be thinking about 27? What players have all the value when it comes to the trade? We're talking about it right here, right now on the Kaufman Corner podcast.
You're listening to the Kaufman Corner Podcast, the most in-depth analysis of the Kansas City Royals, breaking down the Royals like no one else can. Kaufman Corner is hosted by David Lesky and Soren Petro. David Lesky is an accomplished author and the publisher of the Inside the Crown Royals baseball newsletter. Soren is the award-winning afternoon drive host of the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City. Kaufman Corner is proudly brought to you by Gann Asphalt and Concrete, Kansas City's nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor, making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, one contractor, all things parking lot. Now, here are your hosts, David Lesky and Soren Petro.
Thank you very much, Curtis. We're off and running here on a Monday. Normally we come to you on a Sunday, but travel on my part pushes us here to a Monday evening and gives us a Royals win to talk about. The Royals have just put a W in the books. They finished off a 9-2 victory over the Cincinnati Reds, and I guess we'll find out. Is it the start of something big? God, no. No one's thinking that right now. Is it lipstick on a pig? That's probably the mindset of most people right now. So we won't spend a whole lot of times just breaking down tonight's game, although it did look a lot better. There were some things we are going to discuss, like the lineup. I don't know. I mean, I love that phrase from Buddy Bell when Nate Bukaty once asked him in post game, like, well, does this feel like it's rock bottom? And Buddy Bell said, oh, no, it can always get worse. And it did get worse at that time. And I think there's a feeling from a lot of Royals fans right now that, like, this is as bad as it can get. Barring injuries, like more guys getting hurt, how could it get worse right now? Without an injury being part of the equation, how does it get worse right now? Like, just to prepare ourselves, since Buddy Bell taught us that it could. Well, what could you dream up right now about how it could be worse, David?
Let's see. Bobby Witt forgets how to hit entirely and becomes Tony Pena Jr. Maybe there's a middle ground between what he is now and TPJ, I guess. I guess Daniel Lynch starts to implode, which that could happen. I'm trying to think of the good stories from the Royals this year. Those are the two. Michael Wacha has every start is the one he had in Texas this weekend. I mean, the reality is almost everything that could go wrong has for this team. And I guess it could go wronger. But I don't know. I was, Michael Massey has had a really nice run the last few days. He's up to a 457 slug, getting some hits, getting on base a little bit, so he could get hurt tomorrow. You said aside from injuries, but it's a Massey thing. When he gets hot, he gets hurt. And so that feels like it's around the corner, I suppose. But the nice thing about this team is, like, it does kind of feel like like I said, almost everything that could go wrong has. And, like, yes, I suppose Vinny Pasquantino could put up a 540 OPS instead of 640 or whatever he's at. But at some point, does it really matter? What's the difference there? So it does feel like this is about the worst it can be for this team without adding injury to it. if there's more injuries, obviously, for sure. But that, I guess that there's your optimistic point, is that this is everything that's gone wrong has already, so it can't go wronger.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose there's a way, like I said, because that was fateful. I mean, I don't even remember what the hell was going on at that time, but I
Was
remember
that during the 19-game losing streak?
it might have been,
Yeah.
or it might have been before that, like they were on a
Hmm.
12-game losing streak or a 9-game, and later they'd have a 19-game losing streak, and injuries are the biggest way that it could go worse. But I mean, now, even after tonight's win, 14 games under 500 at 23-37, nobody saw this coming. And I think there's going to be a lot of, a lot of explaining to do on this. And I think, I guess the way it could get worse, make bad trades.
Okay.
I would say double down on this group. I think this is something we've kind of been building to, David, in our conversations about this team, is that, they weren't as bad as they looked when they lost 100-plus games in the first year with Matt Cochero. They weren't as good as they looked when they made the playoffs, even with winning a playoff series. I think that winning the playoff series really made us all believe that, no, this is real. This is valid. This is why you can count on this. Is they won a playoff series, so there's nothing to worry about here with that team. They came back last year. Maybe that was, I think we wanted to say, well, injuries drove them down. I think to a degree, you could almost say that, they exceeded, the injuries. Sure, they dragged them down, but they exceeded expectations. I mean, and I think now we're finding out that that group, when everybody's healthy, when everybody's at their best, okay, it's a team that can win you a wild card spot. But it is not a group. It is not a foundation. It is not a firm foundation that all you need to do is just keep adding on top of it with little bitty pieces. They are missing foundational pieces. And so I guess how it would get worse is if they don't recognize where they're coming up short.
Yeah, that's fair.
That would be the epic fail, not to make it, too highbrow.
The long-term fail.
Yeah.
I agree.
Because
with that.
I do feel like one of the reasons why they're sitting here today is, like, I think it's time to, like, I've said this before, if you're a math organization, then be a math organization. If you're going to go by the numbers, if you're going to have this big analytic department, well, the analytics said, 81 and a half, 82 and a half wins this year. The analytics said 80 and a half wins last year. The analytics said way below that the year before. The analytics are not saying 88. The analytics are not saying 90 and you're coming up short. The analytics are telling you mathematically, because that's what Vegas puts win totals out. That's what the Pacodas tell you. They're not telling you. And it's like, well, we have our own system of doing it, and we've got ourselves coming at this. Well, that's great, but you need to look at everybody else's too. And I think that they are, they wanted to believe, because so often they did in that 13, 14, 15, and to a degree 16 and 17 as well. They exceeded what the mathematical projections were. And so I think it was easy to be like, well, no, we're back. We're a playoff team. And when we're a playoff team, they just never give us credit. We're just better than what they can do. Whatever it is they put into that formula, it doesn't understand our special sauce. It seems to understand, especially when you're becoming a math team, then you better pay attention to what the math says you are, because that's in reality what you are. And so I think the way it gets worse is if they continue, and maybe it's not fair to say continue, but if they look at the results that are pouring out of this team and they try to poo-poo it away and say it's just injuries, it's just a slow start from a couple of guys, Salvi's hip was bothering him. Every team, somebody's got something bothering him. Every team's got somebody who got off to a slow start. Every team's got injuries. They're not all floundering at the bottom of the standings. And that's a sign that your team is just not deep enough, is just not good enough. The players that are playing at the level you expect them to play are not good enough to carry through these moments. And these are moments that every team has every year. Now, maybe it's a perfect storm and they're getting them all at once, but after the win, you're 23 and 37.
Yeah. Well, and I want to point out too, there is a difference between injuries and slow starts causing struggles and putting you at 29 and 31 like the Blue Jays, and injuries and slow starts putting you at 23 and 37 like the Royals. And the difference is mathematically it's 6 games, right? But there is a real actual difference between that. And you look at the Blue Jays and you go, all right, first of all, they made it to game 7 of the World Series and 2 outs in the 9th inning in game 7 with the lead. So they're a little bit different to start, obviously, but there's a big difference between those two numbers. And I think that it's important to understand that they're not quite the worst. I'm looking right now. I think the Rockies are still below them and the Tigers are too. But being at the bottom, being bottom 3, 4, 5, whatever it ends up being, is just ridiculously different than being 17th. And so I think that's an important distinction to make.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's where this has to just punch them in the face, and they have to take a serious, long, hard look at, okay, what do we misjudge? And I would say there's a number of different things. One, I think part of it is I was listening to some of the discussion. I was traveling all day, part of it driving, and then part of it flying. And so I was listening to 810 on the app a lot. And there was a discussion about, the pitching from 24. And that, I was reminded of the fact that they had Seth Lugo finished second and Cole Reagans finished 4th in the Cy Young that year. And so there was the idea that the pitching staff had 2 top 5 Cy Young guys. They did in 24, no doubt. They earned those. They earned that kind of record. But if the idea was that, like, here moving forward, we have 2 aces, that's a mistake.
It's
right?
just not reality.
That's just not reality. And so, I think that's been part of it. Like, they have not. I think they obviously recognize they needed more pitching. All their deals last year, they brought in more starting pitching. And they understand that. And I think there's a value of it. I think it starts with the owner. John Sherman is one of the first things he said is the owners, like, you get more pitching. I think you got enough, get even more. And so I think they do get all that. But I think there's been this constant, like, I think they still, because I've seen a couple of people in the chat room saying, well, it's still affected by Dayton Moore. And I do think, listen, let's remember he put 2 flags out there. I don't want to sit and act like Dayton Moore didn't have any idea what he was doing baseball wise here. I want everyone to, it didn't go well at the end. It was time for a change and all that. We all agree. But, there were positives there. I just feel compelled to say that. A lot of positives there. I feel compelled to say that. But yes, the drafting, like the farm system, the upper end of the farm system is still Dayton Moore guys. Like you're waiting on Gavin Cross. You're waving goodbye to Asa Lacy. That's all the Dayton Moore era. And the new era are the guys that are now ranked in the higher rankings of the prospects. So yes, that is part of it. But what I think they have to be careful of is that there's not still we can just love our guys into being better players than anybody else thinks they can be, because we're going to love them more than anybody else. And that is not the way. And maybe that was at the core of what they did in winning a championship in 15, but it is not the core of building an analytic team. And
it's the exception, not the rule.
Yeah. So I that's my fear, is that if this is not a come to Jesus moment, if this is not an eye opener, if they are not, how it will get worse is if they are not scrambling to have meetings and saying, okay, guys, everything's on the table. Where are we going now? What are we changing now? Because there needs to be drastic change. And I'm not saying I'm not saying dump though. I'm not saying tank, blow everybody out. There's no talent. That's not it. That's not what I'm saying. But, like, let's just get to Alex Zumwalt right here. If you're not talking about changing the hitting coach, then you've got to be whoever is stopping that talk. Whoever is the person that because there has to be amongst the top lieutenants, including John Sherman, right? This has to be a topic of conversation. Now, I would be all ears I'd be all ears for why you could stay the course with Alex Zumwalt. I'd be all ears. I want to hear it because I don't know where you're getting it. So I would like to hear what either mystical, magical mountain this came down from, or what incredible analytic data Daniel Mack and his team have to say, this is why. I really would. I mean, everybody seems to say he's a great guy. I don't know him well. I've interviewed him a couple of times. I don't like seeing people lose their jobs. I'd love to hear, here's where it is. But if anybody is being like, we're not even talking about this, then that's it. Then you're not running a baseball organization. You're running a club, which is the way a good old boys club. And that's how it felt a lot of times during the Dayton Moore era. And that's not what this team is supposed to be about.
Well, and I think to that point, everybody's job should be constantly evaluated. I mean, you're a big league team. Like look, I have said many times that I think the onus of this is more on the players than anybody else. And a lot of people disagree with that. A lot of people think it's on JJ, on Matt Quatrero, on Alex Zumwalt, and I think that there's blame from there's blame from every level. But at the same time, you're judged based on results. And at some point, whether you deserve to or not, you're going to lose your job. And maybe shouldn't. I don't know the answer. So everybody should constantly be, I'm not saying every day. I'm not saying that every coach's job should be in peril every single day, but regularly they should be evaluated. And is this person still helping the team win games? And then there's the next question of, are they hurting the team? Are they causing losses? So because I think that there's a middle ground where you can say, look, if they're not helping, but we think they can, but they're not hurting yet, we'll figure something out. I do think, and this is true in all walks of life, by the way. Like your marketing manager at your company, you need to evaluate them regularly as well. But so yeah, if you're not even giving it a question, you're fired, in my opinion. Like if you're the guy saying, no, we can't even look at him, yeah, you're gone. Please leave. And you go back to the offseason when they replaced Keone Duran and Joe Dillon, and they replaced them, Connor Dawson, Marcus Thames, but they kept Alex Zumwalt. We talked about this in the offseason. And the mindset at the time was, as far as I understand, that Alex Zumwalt is the guy who leads those guys. And they love the way that they love his leadership of the coaches. Okay, I disagreed with it. If you're going to fire 2, fire 3, or at least reassign 1, whatever. I at least can say, all right, let's see how it works. We've seen how it works. We are 2 months in, 60 games into a season. We are a 2020 season into this season now, and it is not working. The Royals, as of this exact moment, and it could change, and there's games going on as we're doing this podcast right now. But at this exact moment, the Royals currently rank. I thought I'd have it up by the time I finished talking. They're 28th in runs scored, tied for 28th with the Phillies, interestingly enough. But they are actually dead last, or second to last, in runs per game. They are ahead of only the Boston Red Sox in runs per game as of right this very second. It can change.
Who, by the way, have slapped you around when you've played head to head.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And they are 26th in weighted, 26th in weighted runs created plus, only ahead of the Padres, Phillies, Mets, and Rockies. It's not working. And this is not it's not an indictment of an individual. This is not saying, oh, this guy sucks as a person. No, I don't know Alex Zumwalt. But it's not working. And somebody has to pay with their job. And it's unfortunate. And again, I don't reassign him. I don't care. Put him back in the role that he was in. More than 10 people have told me, and we've heard this from different people. Some have told me, some have said it publicly. They probably don't win the 2015 World Series without Zumwalt and his advanced scouting. He's an organizational soldier who has done great things. Let him do those other things. This isn't working. And they need to make a move, if for nothing else than just to say, hey, there's accountability here.
Well, and I know you're so good at talking with everybody in the minor leagues. You've got great contacts down there and everything. But for correct me if I'm wrong, the Alex Zumwalt rise to prominence as a hitting guru was supposedly the turning in the right direction of MJ Melendez, Nick Prado. Who else? Like, I mean, is anybody?
Witt was in that group, but obviously, I don't know that Witt would have made it with anybody. I think. But yeah, I mean, I'd have to go back and look. I don't even remember now who was if they were hitting at that point. But yeah, you're right. It was the 2020 season that they all worked at the what do they call it? The alternate site. And it was then the 2021 season where they started, they all had monster seasons. And, Melendez came up, and I think that there was a lot of promise in his rookie season, and then it slowly tapered off. Prado never showed that promise. Witt obviously became a superstar. But to your point, it's three guys. I'm pulling it up right now because I'm trying to remember who else it was, and I don't.
That was the gist of it, as I recall. And in the Bobby Wood Jr., like he was the number 2 overall pick.
And I guess Vinny Pasquantino was in that group as well. And Michael Massey was really good in the minors. So I mean, they had some guys. They to be fair, they had some other guys other than those players. Michael Garcia had a 380 on base percentage in low A and high A. I'm going down the list right now. In 2021 specifically. So there were some players, and we've seen them in the big leagues. We've seen them do anywhere between poorly and well in the big league. So there were some guys, but it's that. Yes, that was kind of the impetus. It was him, Drew Saylor. Oh my God, I'm blanking. Mike Tozar was the other name, and he went to the White Sox with Pedro Grifol, and then that ended about as well as you could expect. So yeah, it was that group, and that's how the rise to prominence came. And then when they made that move, was it 22 that they made that they fired Terry Bradshaw in Colorado? Was that the year?
I mean, that blends together for me until you get to 24.
Yeah. I think it was 2022. It was right before, May 16th, 2022. They fired Bradshaw and brought on Zumwalt and his crew. So yeah, that was when it was.
We've seen enough time. We've had enough time, and there have been moments of success. That's great, but like at some point there has to be some accountability. Somebody had in the chat room a comment about how JJ had said something to the effect of, and I don't know that I saw this comment from JJ, and I think as he said here, Cotman said it. JJ mentioned that the historical data says that firing people doesn't do much in the long run. Well, what does it do in the short run? Would be my response to that. And the other part I would say is, so then you never fire anyone ever? I mean, like that's just a defensive comment, which I don't mind.
I think he meant in season, for the record,
that's what I'm assuming.
I think fair, but also. But sometimes you need that dead cat bounce.
I think like this year is done. Okay.
Yeah.
It's been done for a while for me. I declared it when they got swept by the Red Sox. Others have declared it since. Others declared it before. But there's nothing right now. And tonight was nice. And I appreciate tonight. And we can talk about Luinder Avila looking pretty good. Although, you know what I think that is? That's fool's gold. They're going to be like, okay, so he's a starter. And it's not going to work. Like we've seen him.
But I will say, give him 20 starts. That's the beauty of this now is they have an opportunity to do this.
Yeah. And Cotman did confirm. He said it was in Andy Rogers' article, and that he did mean in season, and that's fine. And I get it. But if I'm one of his lieutenants, and I'm talking about, listen, let's talk about Alex Zumwalt and whether or not we're staying with him. I'm not bringing it up to try to save this year. I'm bringing it up like this is not working. We need to go another direction. And I think also the other thing is you need to send a message to that clubhouse that when we have expectations, we live up to them or people pay, right?
Well,
people pay.
But also they, in my opinion, hired his replacement. So like, I do understand it to some extent when you say, I'm not, what is it going to do to fire this person when I can't go hire the guy I want to hire? I feel like they've hired the guy they want to hire, right? I mean, don't you think it's either Dawson or Thames that they've thought, okay, if we move on from Zumwalt, we've got our guy, because Thames has done it before and Dawson's the up and comer. So, I mean, I suppose if you want to have a third, you're not choosing from your pick of the litter, but don't you have that guy? I mean, I think there's a difference between when you don't have him and when you do, and they seem like they do have the guy they want. So that part doesn't make much sense to me either.
There's a couple of good comments here. Mark said, listen, these guys can't fix it. If they could, they would. They've proven definitively and objectively that they cannot. I think that's an interesting one. From Garrett, he says, my point is he's no Kevin Seitzer, and he's not really having the direct impact. I agree. There's no track record of like a Kevin Seitzer of all the success behind where it's like, no, we need to stay the course because this guy eventually gets it done. He's got it done everywhere. I think that's a great position. And there's one other I thought, I think I lost it. But anyway, I'll see if I can find it. And then I think this is an important one from Aiden. He said, do we believe in JJ long term? I'm not even going to go there I don't mind the question, Aiden. I think it's a fair question, and I think it's one that the owner should kind of always be kicking around.
Well, JJ's in that group that's always evaluated, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And so, but I think what I think JJ needs to know is like if I were sitting here, I'd be like, JJ, they're starting to talk about your job. They're screaming about Quatrero's job. Like, what are we going to do if we don't do something? Eventually, we're all gone. Okay, so if you think we're all in it together, then fine. We're all in it together to the very end, and we're going to go to the very end. But I am telling you that there are changes that can come that can, and I don't say this because I don't think I know JJ Piccolo does not think about, I'm going to make the decision that gets me one more extra paycheck over Alex Zumwalt getting a paycheck. That's not the way the man thinks. I know it. And he's a good baseball. And I know the mindset of almost every baseball guy is that way, that they're going to do what they believe is best for the organization. And if they have to go get another job because it doesn't work, they'll go get another job. They're confident they will. And JJ would absolutely get another job. Right. And so I don't think that's the way it works. But I mean, I think you have to understand that you start like it's what I've said for a long, long time. If not him, then who? I throw that to people all the time that want to fire somebody 5 minutes into a season and all that. And I think it's a fair question. And I think it's what I would respond if I'm JJ. But that ends when your fan base says anyone.
Mm-hmm.
When they say anyone, because after anyone comes you're out. And I don't think JJ Piccolo should be out. I think the work that they've done to rebuild the minor league system, I think a lot of the pitching decisions, the trades have been high quality. But eventually it's going to happen. You've got in-town ownership. It does not have to echo all the way to Northwest Arkansas to get to ownership. They all live here. They're hearing what their fans are saying.
They're at every game.
Yes.
Well, I don't know about most games.
Yeah. And so, it's going to get to management level if you don't do something quickly.
Yep.
Right. And I think, and by management, I know Alex Zumwalt's management, I mean higher levels of management. And I think Matt Quatrero knows what he's doing. Right. I would gladly, if I'm JJ Piccolo, sacrifice Alex Zumwalt. To your point, reassign him at the least to make sure that my manager gets a little heat off of him and we try something different. I just don't think there's any reason not to go down that road. So, listen, we got a lot we still want to talk about, but we've gotten in a little bit of what they've gone wrong with. But the shakeup to the lineup, that is interesting. And we've talked for a long time about Carter Jensen at the top. We're finally seeing it. We'll do it after you hear from our friends at Gann Asphalt and Concrete. Concrete season is in full swing and asphalt paving is revving up. So right now is the time to get your property on the schedule with Gann Asphalt and Concrete. Whether you need new concrete work, a parking lot repaved, crack filling, seal coating, or full asphalt installation, their experienced crews handle it all right here in Kansas City. Don't wait until the rush hits. Call today for a free bid and secure your spot before the calendar fills up. Get the process started right now at GannAsphalt.com. That's GannAsphalt.com. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lots. Italian Delight was the first restaurant to bring true New York-style pizza to Kansas City almost 50 years ago. They sell whole pies or pizza by the slice, or enjoy their classic strombolis, calzones, and sausage rolls. Sandwich lovers, check out their lineup of hot and cold subs, the combo, the meatball, or the Philly cheesesteak, just to name a few. And don't forget the pasta. Their famous lasagna and classic chicken Alfredo always hit the spot. And if you're hungry for lunch, check out their daily lunch specials, starting at under $10. Italian Delight can even cater your next work function or party. Dine in, carry out, or delivery, it's Italian Delight. Located just 3 minutes east of Kansas Speedway at 8145 State Ave in KCK. Check out the menu and order online at ItalianDelightKS.com. Kansas City's own Italian Delight. By the way, look at the elevation Renee's getting on that dough toss there at the end on that commercial. Excellent production there. Renee and his sister, Italian Delight, great place. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, great people as well, local companies. Support the sponsors that support Kaufman Corner, please, if you don't mind. Let's talk a little bit about the lineup. What do you think of Carter Jensen in the leadoff spot? Michael Garcia is down, gives you a chance to take a look at it. And why not stick with it? Michael Garcia, I know there's optimism that's not as bad as we thought. Doesn't look like he's going to need an IL stint. So, but when he comes back, do you just put him back at the top? Or let's see how this looks with Carter Jensen up top.
Yeah, I mean, they started at Friday night against a lefty. So it was Lane Thomas at the top and Garcia hit third, which we talked about. I said they should flip them 3 weeks ago because Thomas is doing a better job of getting on base and Garcia is driving the ball a little bit better, although Thomas did hit a grand slam today, which was nice to see. By the way, Lane Thomas has hit 2 home runs this year, a walk-off 3-run home run, a grand slam, both on nights that we recorded right after the game. I don't want to say that we should probably be doing more of these. I'm just saying. we are actually, it's our fault that the Royals aren't better. If we did 162, they'd never lose. But I like Jensen at the top. We talked about it in the offseason. I didn't think they would do it. Because you hear a lot that it's tough on a catcher to lead off, and he's not catching every night, but on the nights he is, it's a tough task. And then, but as I think I said in the offseason, you start to look at it and you go, well, they have to lead off an inning sometimes. What's the difference? It just happens to be the first. So, and that's only if you're the home team, obviously, that it's a big deal in the leadoff spot. But I like it because he takes pitches, he gets on base, he's starting to come back around a little bit. It hasn't been wonderful, but I think it makes a lot of sense. It's interesting that they started on Friday and Garcia got hurt on Saturday. And so we didn't get to see the actual fruits of changing the lineup truly around. So we'll see, but I think they will keep him in the middle when it's all said and done, because that was the plan 4 days ago, whatever it was. I also think that whatever moves Salvi down is good.
Yeah.
I still believe they need to. I mean, it doesn't matter anymore because wins and losses have become secondary, which really sucks to have to deal with on June 1st. But I still believe that Vinny and Salvi should be separated. It's just too much slow, right in the middle. And again, I'll go back to last year. The offense was much better when it was Pasquantino, Garcia, Salvi, 3, 4, 5, rather than Pasquantino, Salvi, 3 and 4. So I might want to even move Garcia down one more spot. It's just tough because Pasquantino's been struggling, although he had a really nice game today. He had a good game a couple of days ago. But I like it. I like the idea behind it. I wish they'd done it a little bit sooner.
Yeah, I think so as well. And I just want to see it play out. I mean, this gives you your left, right. Like if you're committed to that, this gives you, you can do it all the way through the lineup when you put him up at the top. And it gives you somebody who can take the ball over the wall, is more of a threat to take the ball over the wall when he's up there. And, he's historically been a good on-base guy. So let's let him get up and work that part of his game. It is tough. Everybody will talk about, especially like on a game like tonight where he's catching to get the gear off and get out there and bat lead off is something that a lot of teams don't like to do, but it ain't working the other ways. So,
yeah,
take your time, rattle the pitcher, take a little time getting out there. And, it's just one game, but I'll take the results of what we saw tonight. I mean,
well, so Jensen's now led off in 6 games in his career. Okay. The Royals have scored 20 runs, 2 runs, 12 runs. I'm going off the top of my head. 6, 3, and 9. So I'm not saying he's the reason that it's happened, but more often than not, when Carter Jensen leads off,
52 runs in 6 games. Is that what that comes out to?
No, 20 of them are 1 game, but even so, that's 32 and 5.
Yeah.
It's way too small of a sample, but it's worked in the small sample. And I think it makes a lot of sense. It's similar to me to Alex Gordon leading off in 2011. And Jensen for being a catcher, I don't remember where he ranks exactly. I'm going to try to get this up real quick. But he is actually sprint speed wise, and sprint speed is not everything, but he is sprint speed wise. Let's see. He ranks 4th on the team in sprint speed. So he's not slow. He's 27
by Royal standards,
but he's 64th percentile. So he has the exact same sprint speed actually as Michael Garcia, which is you wouldn't expect that. But it makes a lot of sense, especially if he can get back going. The overall numbers look really poor because he's hit a rough stretch. And look, I don't know if he'll come out of it. Nobody knows because he's never done this before. But we have seen success from him at the big league level. end of last year, start of this season. I just think it makes a lot of sense to have him at the top.
Who makes sense closing games?
Nobody on this team. I mean, you can look at Daniel Lynch and say, cool, like, great, let's give it a shot. And I have no problem. That's fine. Give it a shot. He's never done it. You know, the only guy on this team who has actually done it is Lucas Erceg, and right now he doesn't look like he can do it. I mean, I go back to Saturday, and I know that people were apoplectic about going to Erceg again with a 2-run lead. I wrote it today. The options and the options were Mason Black, pass. I mean, I think Mason Black could maybe show us something at some point. That's whatever. They could have kept John Schreiber in, which, okay, I guess sort of. They could have gone to Eric Sarantola, who they thought so much of that they optioned him immediately when they had Matt Strahm back. They could have gone to Eli Morgan, who has been terrible. They could have gone to Steven Cruz, who gave up a homer to Nicky Lopez the day before. Nicky Lopez. Or Erceg. And this is not to say that Erceg was the right choice, but it's to say there wasn't a right choice. And by the way, part of why they got where they were is because Daniel Lynch faltered. So I'm fine if you want to give Lynch the opportunities. That's great. I think it's perfectly acceptable, and I'm all for seeing if it can work or building trade value. But there's no answer is the point.
Yeah, I mean, how do you fix the bullpen? You get to the off season.
Yeah,
like that's
pretty much.
There's no answer. I mean, like, one of the answers that we had early on started tonight and gave one of their most compelling performances as a starter here in quite some time. So, like, that's the problem, is that you've got issues up there as well. Usually you'd like to be pushing guys back into the bullpen. You're like, okay, well, let's try this guy's electric stuff. Yeah, like, we've had the comment in here, and I think it's Cotman who's talked about it a lot, about Cole Reagans to the bullpen.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm all ears if Cole Reagans is ever going to be able to go, I mean,
well, my question about that is, I mean, we always look at that and go, well, it's much easier. Is it easier to pitch every day? For some guys, it's not. Some guys, they need the rest after a start.
I'm with you. I've heard it said both ways. But then I watched John Smoltz come back from Tommy John, and the Braves thought the best way to break him back in was to be a closer, and he thrived. He became a dominant closer. And then they said, okay, now we're going to put him back in the rotation. Then he thrived there as well. And so
but I think everybody's different is the point. And like, we just don't know if
they are, but there's also some math called like 170 innings versus 70.
Sure.
Like, I mean, I know it's like back-to-back days, but it's an inning, So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I mean, to revert back to some of our earlier questions about like what went wrong, and like one of the things they like the Cole Reagans deal, like, he's more, the outlier is fourth in the Cy Young. The reality is more like what the Rangers were dealing with, right? There's electric stuff there. There's no doubt. And when he's on, it's great, but he is trending more and more towards Danny Duffyville than he is towards Randy Johnsonville, which is what the Royals want to believe. And Danny Duffy had a season that got him a $60 million contract. And I'm a huge Duffy fan. Much rather see the $60 million in Danny Duffy's bank account than the Glass family's bank account. They had enough money. It's fine. So I love it. Danny Duffy's a great guy. And so always enjoyed talking to Danny Duffy, and a stand-up guy. So I was thrilled, but his career wasn't what he wanted it to be. And I always thought with Danny Duffy, what would Danny Duffy have been if early in his career, early in his trials and tribulations, they'd have just said, "You're the closer." Because I think he would have been a dominant closer. And I even watched his face light up. I watched Mike Swanson ask him one time in spring training, "Man, how about if you were closing every game?" And he's like, "That'd be something." And like, I was like, nobody's gone and said, let's make this happen, when he seems to be here with media fatties standing around watching, and he'll still, show you. I mean, or maybe it's because we were standing around. He wanted people to know, I'm open to it. You can't do it though if you don't have other starting pitching.
Right.
And That's where they kind of find themselves again now. Even though we thought this year this was going to be the time that you could finally push starters into the bullpen, no, it hasn't been the case. So yeah, I'm with you. There is no fix for the bullpen right now.
Yeah.
And
which maybe somebody gets hot, but the reality too is if they get hot, you probably should trade them by the deadline. So you're August 1st. I don't know when the deadline is this year. Is it July 31st? I don't know why they started moving it because it makes me angry now that I don't know. But it's August 1st or whatever day, the day after, it's August 3rd, August 4th, the bullpen might stink again if they figure it out. But okay, that's what a losing season is now for trading. So I don't, unfortunately, there's not an answer. Right. And it's, you can even look to this season for a stretch. You go, oh, maybe Nick Mears is it. Nope, he can't. He's bad. Oh, Alex Lane cannot pitch. Oh, he's got a 2.2 ERA in his last 6. There's just no consistency.
If Estevez is hurt and Urseg is not looking like what he did early in his time with the A's and early in his time with the Royals, that there is not an answer. Period. End of discussion. There's nobody else that looks the part. I mean, I think it's as simple as that. I want to talk about the trade deadline. We'll do it after you hear from our friends at Italian Delight. Italian Delight was the first restaurant to bring true New York-style pizza to Kansas City almost 50 years ago. They sell whole pies or pizza by the slice, or enjoy their classic strombolis, calzones, and sausage rolls. Sandwich lovers, check out their lineup of hot and cold subs, the combo, the meatball, or the Philly cheesesteak, just to name a few. And don't forget the pasta. Their famous lasagna and classic chicken Alfredo always hit the spot. If you're hungry for lunch, check out their daily lunch specials, starting at under $10. Italian Delight can even cater your next work function or party. Dine in, carry out, or delivery, it's Italian Delight. Located just 3 minutes east of Kansas Speedway at 8145 State Ave in KCK. Check out the menu and order online at ItalianDelightKS.com. Kansas City's own Italian Delight. Gann Asphalt and Concrete is looking to grow their team. If you have heavy construction foreman experience with heavy equipment, asphalt or concrete labor, or just want to learn a new trade, contact Gann Asphalt and Concrete to join their team today. Top of the market pay, company provided insurance, and paid time off and holiday pay are just a few of the great reasons to join Gann's expanding team. Learn more about this great opportunity with Gann at GannAsphalt.com/careers. That's GannAsphalt.com/careers. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lots. All right, starters are always a value. Who can the Royals trade? Right? We talk about the bullpen. If Urseg, if you can get him back to looking good, then he has value. But, the ERA is now over 6. That's going to be a tough sell for he's got to pitch well from now until the deadline to get those numbers down to where you can really be like, no, this is a guy who's an 8th inning guy or a 9th inning guy. Michael Wacha. What are we looking at? I'm kind of the opinion that Seth Lugo doesn't even have value unless you're going to eat money, because he's been good, but not great. But at $23 million per for what this year and 2 more.
I think he's. I'm gonna look this up real quick. I think he's 20 million, and the 3 is a signing bonus.
You doubting my numbers?
Yeah, always.
As you should.
Let's see.
23 with an option for 23 and 28. So it's this year next at 20.
Well, I'm on CODS and it's showing 20 and 20 with a $3 million signing bonus and a $3 million buyout on his 28 club option.
Okay.
So I think that's the $3 million. The extra $3 million comes in the signing bonus from last year and the buyout at the end of this season, which would impact a trading team. So it would be the remainder of 20 million plus the $3 million buyout. The option is guaranteed with 190 innings in 27. Oh, no, I'm sorry. 27 is, they have $20 million next year too. This is only 2026. I have gotten ahead of myself. So yeah. So it is 23 million plus the remainder of this year. Or if he throws, what was it, 335 innings between this year and next, it's guaranteed at 20 million.
Which you could get to. So does that have value?
I think it does have value. I don't I don't know the answer if some team would take on the full contract. I think the question the Royals would have to ask, I think there would be a team that would, the Dodgers, if they wanted somebody to get them to the finish line. Trying to think of it, big money teams that could use pitching. The Yankees don't really need pitching. They have so much right now depth wise and coming back from injury that they probably wouldn't take that money on. But maybe a big money team would, if it would lessen the prospect load in return. If I'm the Royals, I'm eating money and taking better prospect.
Yes.
So having said that, though, I have done a little payroll math for next season, and it does get kind of interesting. If they were to trade, if they were to trade Waka, Lugo, and then I put Isbell and Lynch, because I think Isbell is a guy who he had some value last year. I think he'll have some value this year. Teams like him as a fourth outfielder, and the contract is cheap. He does a lot of things really well as a fourth outfielder. You could be looking at over $100 million to spend in the offseason. If you said, I don't care what prospect you give me, you have to eat all $20 million of Seth Lugo's contract next year. I would rather have the prospect, I think, but there is an argument that you could look at and say, let's get the payroll as low as possible and just go ham in the free agent market. But there's a risk, right? Like, I think about, they offered Anthony Santander money. He didn't sign. And it worked out. It's worked out great for the Royals so far. But you can have all the money in the world, but if you can't get the guy, you can't get the guy. And so, you're banking on some things. I mean, I think about
I think that's part of the reason why they don't want to lose Waka and Lugo, because they're guys that want to play here.
And they've already got them. And I mean, you start to look at the free agent starting pitching, and there's some guys. I mean, you could go get Jack Flaherty or Zach Gallen or Casey Mize or Mike Soroka or whoever. And that's fine. But you got guys who want to pitch here who have been successful. It's a tough thread or needle to thread.
Yeah.
I said that backwards. It's tough because I think you probably get more from Michael Wacha, partially because next year's contract goes down to $14 million because he's making $18 million this year, and then the money goes down. And so you trade the guy at the deadline, and he gets $20 million for the next year and 2 months. It's hard to argue with that, with the production he's given. But at the same time, you'd have Michael Wacha for next year who can give you innings. And you start to look at the free agent starting pitching, and I mean, you can go get innings. You can get Brady Singer, who's been terrible for the Reds this season. You can do that. Or you can spend big money and go after like a Freddie Peralta, who doesn't give you more than 5 1/3 every start. Or you can go take a risk on Casey Mize, who's been hurt twice already. Like, there are options, but you got a guy already. So it's a tough. I can understand if they don't move him.
Should they even be looking at 27? And again, not to tear it down, not to say that this is a tank job, but like, do they need to be looking at David Shields and Kendry Churio and 29? Is that the reality of this? And get by with Luinder Avila and, go ahead and play that out all next year. Kolek, Avila, whoever you don't trade out of Walker, Lugo, Cameron.
Yeah.
Hopefully Bergert's back.
Yeah, but he won't be back until July, probably.
Somebody in free agency.
Yeah, and you got to get a Michael Lorenzen type.
Yeah, and sorry to keep interrupting you, David. I apologize.
No, I'm interrupting you.
There. We're in a bad rhythm. But the reality is they need to be focusing more on 28, 29. That, like, the idea of worrying about making a decision on not trading somebody because you're worried about how you're going to line your club up at 27. Go back to my original point. This foundation is not good enough.
I agree. I think we might argue about this a little bit, but I don't have a problem if they treat the 26-27 offseason like they treated 23-24. It's, hey, let's bring some guys in to help us. We'll see how it works, and maybe we'll catch lightning in a bottle. Because I don't think. Well, now look, there wasn't anything to really block at the time, but I don't think they were hampering development by going out and getting Hunter Renfroe and Lugo and Waka, and it ended up working. I mean, you can scoff at Renfroe, but he had a really good 3-month stretch. They don't make the playoffs without him hitting the way he did from May to August. They just don't. Which we talked about a lot last year. If they had 24 Hunter Renfroe, they might make the playoffs in 25. and you know, I don't have a huge problem with guys like that and saying, look, we don't think we can win big until 28, 29. But we do think that we have enough good players that if we make the right choices, we can win 87 games. Then you make a run. And it's not at the expense of 28, 29, but it's saying we'll spend some money and we'll hopefully win some games. I don't have a problem with that.
I don't either. And I think a lot of it will depend upon how much money they're willing to spend. Right? Like, I mean,
which to their credit, they've gone up about 10% every year. And if they go up 10% next year, they're looking at about $165 million payroll. And without any moves, they're going to include guys coming off the books and increases in salary. They will be about $25 million down from this season, which leaves, I mean, right now I have them at about 95 million on their current 27 outlay for, I think it's 18 players. So if they're going to 165, that leaves them 70 million to spend. I mean, they've got some money to play with in trades, in free agency. There's a path to this team being good next season with the right moves. It's got to make the right moves. But again, I wouldn't make those moves at the cost of the teams beyond. I would do what they did in 23, 24 and make short-term moves if they're going to do it.
Okay.
But I'm not saying, again, everything is in service of 28, but you've got Bobby Witt, you've got Michael Garcia. You theoretically have Jack Caglione and Carter Jensen.
That one I'm getting really tired of. You've got Bobby Witt. You've got Michael Garcia. Yeah, you do, and you suck. So,
but they haven't.
Yeah, but that means, you know what that means? It means they're untouchables.
Sure. And I don't think they are, but
do you really think that this team, like, they're going in the wrong direction?
They are. And
With
I'm not
this
saying
group, they're going in the wrong direction. Like, what tangible proof is there that they're a couple of moves away? Like, I keep avoiding, because nobody wants to hear me say tank. And I don't think they're there, because I do think that at some point they're going to play better baseball and they're going to have an annoying run and they're going to end up winning like 75 games and they're going to screw up the draft pick and they're not going to screw it up. They're just going to be like who they were, and they're going to have a yang to their yin and all that crap. And so it's going to look better, right? Like, I don't think they're the worst team in baseball. I mean, they have the second worst run differential behind only the Rockies right now. I think that's something that you need to level with yourself. It's not just that you're not hitting. You're not exactly killing it pitching wise either. Okay. So, but I don't look at this team of 30 something pitchers and go, yeah, we just got to hold the fort till next year. And then it's all good.
That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is make the moves. Don't worry about 27, and then go in the offseason and say, look, if you want to give it a shot and try, I'm just throwing a name out, Mike Soroka. I don't even know if he's been good this year, but like, make that move. But as long as whatever you do, it cannot hurt 28. Okay. You don't trade David Shields for a rental in 2027. I'm saying go out and sign your Michael Waka again.
Well,
trade Waka and then sign somebody else like him.
Listen, I talked to people that were talking when the Brendan Donovan thing was going on. It's like, listen, the Met three-way thing fell apart. Now it's a matter of, will the Royals give the prospects that the Cardinals would want from the Royals? And that was going to require Shields or Churio. Mm-hmm. What will we be saying right now? Brendan Donovan's hurt, and this team sucks.
Hasn't been great either.
And when he played, he wasn't that good. I mean, what would we be saying right now if that had happened? Okay, so my point is, like, the clock is ticking. Like, I keep hearing, well, you got Bobby Witt Jr. Okay, you do, but like, maybe that's the problem. Like, maybe that's the only way out, is that it, like, because we all know that you're going to get to the end of that deal and he's going to opt out. If he keeps playing the way he is, he's going to opt out. And you're either going to have to give him even more money going into the years that he's going to be on the decline, or you're going to have to watch him walk to some team that will pay, and knowing that the back end of the deal is going to be trash, but they want the guy playing at a high level at 30, 31, 32. Or you're going to have to trade him before, there's a year plus left on that part of the equation. So that day is rapidly coming. Okay.
It's 2 years away. The end of 28. I think that's the time.
Yes. So the whole point is you're going to keep, that's why I think it's absolutely vital for you to figure out, is this team any good with this foundation? Yeah. Is it good enough? Otherwise, taping things onto this foundation under the pretenses of we have Bobby Witt Jr., when your payroll's already at a point that you're adding Isaac, they're not adding anybody of appreciable note. They were not in the running to just go buy somebody. They were in the running to trade. They were going to trade Chris Bubich. Let's be honest. If it went down the way they wanted, they're going to trade Chris Bubich to the Mets, and they're going to get Brendan Donovan for the Cardinals with other pieces balancing it out. All right? Now, Bubich has been hurt. Donovan's been hurt. It'd be a little bit of a wash. But, there's no, we're going to go get Kyle Tucker and finish this team off. So why aren't we talking about Vinny Pasquantino and getting Caglione at first base? Why aren't we talking about, listen, if somebody will just blow us away for Bobby Witt? Now, it's tough to trade Bobby Witt because those deals almost never end up being good enough. You almost never get three great prospects. I mean,
the Soto deal.
I mean,
the Nats got it.
Yeah. I mean, they did. It's looking really good.
You're right. It's rare. But real quick, I don't think we're saying that different of a thing here. I'm saying you do everything you can to be great in 28, 29 on that other timeline. And I think they have enough money to piece it together and just throw some crap on a wall in 27, like they did in 23, 24. And if it doesn't work, you haven't mortgaged anything from we've got to make a decision on Bobby Witt Jr. timeline. And I'm just never going to be somebody who's like, yeah, go out and win 55 games. Be as bad as you can be to get the draft pick. Because first of all, they're not going to have a draft pick. They're not going to have a lottery pick because they're going to get it this year too, which means they'll have 2 years in a row and they won't get it next year anyway. So you might as well spend some money in free agency, try to backfill the spots that you've traded.
This is year one in the lottery.
But if they get it next year, it'd be year two. And so being bad next year would not help them in 28. They would lose the lottery. Yeah. And so I'm just saying, I don't think you have to make a choice between being respectable next year and building for the future. I think they can both happen. If you give short-term deals and see what happens in 27, worst that can happen is, are they 14 games below 500 at the 60 game mark? Haven't seen that before,
Well, we're going to have a longer discussion because Maikel Garcia has receded. Yeah. Vinny has receded. I mean, Salvi's getting older. I mean, the 30 something, here's Salvador Perez, 36. Vinny Pasquantino is going to turn, has he already turned 29? I think he's still 28. Massey's 28. Bobby and Maikel are 26. Isaac Collins, 28. Kyle Isbell's 29. We get to 28. There's so many 30s on this team that it's not even funny. And then the pitching staff, 34-year-old Walker, 36-year-old Lugo. Cole Reagans is already 28. Stephen Kolek's 29. Lucas Ursek's 31. Alex Lang is 30. I know he's not, the Daniel Lynch is 29. This is not a young team.
No, and they've got to, and that's why I think, thinking back to the whole do you trade Lugo and Walker? I think the answer might be yes. And you figure it out next year. And like I said, you go out and you sign a couple of veterans. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work because you're building to get David Shields in the rotation and Justin Lampkin in the rotation and Churio or Shields, whichever one I didn't say, in the rotation. And you build toward that while you tape it together for a year.
And I think that's where they've got to get to. They've got to get to where they're not paying, $20 million to this veteran and $17 million to this veteran, and so that they can pay that to guys who can hit. You know, like the pitching, if the pitching can come from in-house and be cheap and cost effective, or at least a lot of it be cost effective, then you can pay for the bats. And I think that'd be an important part of the equation.
The other tough part about that, and this is another big conversation, every year free agency is worse and worse with what's out there. I mean, have you looked at the 26-27 free agents yet?
Not yet, but I was ready to dive in soon.
It is ugly. I mean, there's the darling Taylor Ward, there's Brandon Lau, there's Gleyber Torres, and then it's Randy Arozarena. I mean, Seiya Suzuki. You know, I'm looking at this list right now. I'm on MLB Trade Rumors has a great list. You want to talk about the best bat in free agency is probably Taylor Ward, who's a fine player, and the Royals almost got him this winter. They didn't, but I mean, I'm going down this list. I guess, yeah, it's probably Taylor Ward. Which, if Taylor Ward is the best hitting free agent, that is not a great. So it's hard to rely on that. There are better pitchers out there than hitters, is what I'm saying.
It's going to be interesting. It'll be interesting to see what they do as they approach the deadline. We'll talk about it each week here on the Kaufman Corner podcast. And of course, you can support the Kaufman Corner podcast by supporting our great sponsors like Gann Asphalt and Concrete. If you own or manage a business, Gann is Kansas City's best. They can solve any and all parking lot problems. They've been doing it for more than 30 years. If you need new concrete work, a parking lot repave, crack filling, seal coating, or full asphalt installation, their experienced crews handle it all. Don't wait until the schedule is full, because it's getting full right now. Go right now to GannAsphalt.com, and our friends at Italian Delight, Kansas City's best, brought true New York-style pizza to KC. The first to do it almost 50 years ago. Stromboli's, calzones, sausage rolls, hot and cold subs, their famous lasagna, the classic chicken Alfredo daily lunch special starting at under $10. Just a few minutes east of Kansas Speedway at 8145 State Ave. Order online at Italian Delight. KS.com. For David Lesky from Inside the Crown, must read his great work at Inside the Crown. I'm Soren Petro saying thank you very much for joining us here